everyone. Thanks for having me. Can you hear me okay on this? Okay. Okay. So yeah, what Joseph said, I'm going to be talking about non-ordinary states of consciousness. That's the NOSC, psychedelics, and how they can help transform the mind. So a little bit more about me. I got into this, well, I've been a therapist since 2010, but I really got into perinatal mental health after the birth of my first child in 2019. It was what I call a traumatic birth, although I think a lot of births are traumatic just because when you think of the definition of trauma, which is anything that's too big or too much for somebody to handle all at once. But I ended up in the OR and had what I consider a near-death experience. And then coupled with having a wakeful, colicky baby, and then 3 months later, the pandemic, I think all of that contributed to a postpartum mood disorder. Unfortunately, psychedelics helped me work through that. I already had a practice with psychedelics, and so it just worked out that I was able to use those medicines to go into that trauma and to get through that transformational period of my life. So that's why I'm excited about this. And there's 5 different ways to induce non-ordinary states of consciousness. So it can be spontaneous, like daydreaming or a near-death experience, NDE. Physiological, so breath work, like holotropic breath work, if you've heard of that. Dancing, sex, fasting, those are all physiological ways to be in a non-ordinary state of consciousness. Then there's psychological, that's supposed to say meditation, music, hypnosis, and EMDR. I'm also going to talk a little bit about EMDR today. So that's a trauma treatment called eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. And then pathological, so like epilepsy or brain damage, and pharmacological, which includes psychedelics. So non-ordinary states of consciousness can be really therapeutic and transformational. They can break us out of rigid thinking. It can increase flexibility with looking at yourself and others. It can elicit feelings of connectedness and compassion, a sense of belonging and purpose, greater access to the unconscious material, and belief in an inner wisdom can be more accessible when you're in a non-ordinary state of consciousness. And I put the snow globe there because I like, and somebody brought that up earlier in their talk, I think it kind of like shakes up some of our ruminative patterns of thinking and just moves things around. So I love that too. So what can psychedelics teach us? And I love this painting by Alex Gray. So it's somebody giving birth. But basically, just like other non-ordinary states of consciousness, everything, birth, breath, and death. So breath would be like the embodiment, aware that we have a body, what it feels like to breathe in our body. And then some people do have rebirthing experiences, so they relive their own birth or process the birth of their own children. And then death too, like psychedelics can be a way to practice dying before we die, to be okay with letting go of everything that we're attached to, everything that we think defines us and makes us who we are. A lot of people have a near-death experience while on psychedelics. Not everybody, but it can happen. And it feels, I've had that too. And it feels like, watching who you thought you were just explode and disappear. And so with that, it's scary when it happens. It can be scary, but it also can be liberating and can help you feel a little less scared maybe of that happening in this world. And I love this quote by Ram Dass. "Love is the most transformative medicine, for love slowly transforms you into what psychedelics only get you to glimpse." So even with all that I just said that can happen on a psychedelic journey, it's really just a glimpse of what is out there. And that's another thing why I love going into those states. Like you get a little glimpse of this all these other realms that we don't typically have access to in our ordinary day-to-day lives. So the word psychedelic, psyche is mind or soul, delos or delic, to reveal, so soul revealing. So it's a practice of looking at our souls, getting to know them on a deeper level. And another word, entheogens or entheogens, I don't know how people say it, generating the divine within. So entheogens are also like psychoactive plants. So there's many different psychedelics. I'm sure many of you know of them, like ayahuasca, mescaline, peyote is a form of mescaline, mushrooms, psilocybin mushrooms, ketamine. I'm going to talk a little bit about ketamine. So there's many different substances. And I think this practice of looking at our souls, looking at who we are and where we're going, is needed always, but right now there's a lot going on, as you all know. So I think it's a good practice for us right now. And one of the many things that are going on, something I care deeply about, is the mental health epidemic that we have going on. We're seeing increasing rates of mental illness, of suicide. 1 in 5 U.S. adults experience mental illness each year. Suicide's the second leading cause of death among people 10 to 24. I think in Utah, it's higher than other places even. And the number one cause of maternal mortality is suicide, beyond any other like physical health condition, which I think is very interesting. And I'm not here to bash on SSRIs. I think that those are very helpful, but they only have a 40 to 60% response rate. They don't work for everyone, obviously. And I don't think necessarily that psychedelics work for everyone, but I do think we need lots of tools and more alternatives. And so I'm happy that there's more and more studies on psychedelics for mood disorders. 65% of studies reported a reduction in a review of studies reported a reduction in anxiety with psychedelics. And ketamine is being studied because it can rapidly decrease suicidality. So I'm also excited about that. Why ketamine? I work with ketamine in my practice. I work with it because it's the only legal psychedelic right now in all U.S. states. There's a couple states like Colorado and Utah that are working with psilocybin. That's not yet available in Arizona or Utah. I think some people in Utah are able to do it with some special arrangements. It's neurogenic, so it promotes synaptogenesis and neuronal branching. So it's like brain fertilizer. It's not serotonergic, so clients who are on SSRIs can engage with ketamine. That's another thing with like mushrooms or ayahuasca. Those are serotonergic, and so people are advised to go off of their SSRIs if they want to engage with those medicines, which can be risky. And so that's some of my work too, is harm reduction, just educating people to like do that slowly if they're going to be doing ayahuasca or going out of the country or something to do another medicine, to taper off slowly. But also I like that ketamine, you don't have to go off of your SSRI to try ketamine. And ketamine has a powerful synergy when paired with psychotherapy. It's also great because it's shorter acting, so it can, the psychoactive effects are about 90 minutes, 45 to 90 minutes, whereas with other psychedelics, they can be up to like 8 hours. And so it works well for people's schedule. Some of the subjective experiences of ketamine are similar to classic psychedelics. It's ineffable, so hard to describe. Expansive, there's a sense of boundarylessness and formlessness. There's synesthesia that can happen, so the crossing of senses, tasting or smelling color, for example. There's a lot of movement, so some people can get nauseous. It's like motion sickness, but some people describe it as like a fun movement ride. And commonly a feeling of peace or just general okayness, like in themselves and others. So I said it, and I'm noticing the time. Have I already talked for 10 minutes? Okay. What? Okay. Yeah, so I can't really get into EMDR, but EMDR is very amazing if you have never worked with it. It it kind of it is a non-ordinary state of consciousness as well. And then I've been pairing EMDR with low dose ketamine in my practice and seeing really amazing results in that way. It works well because people with when you're processing your trauma, you can get flooded or activated your nervous system, and ketamine helps as kind of like it tempers the limbic system, and so you can access this material more easily and you can go deeper into your trauma. So that's all I'll say about that, but I could do a whole presentation on that. So yeah, non-ordinary states, birth, therapy, psychedelics, death open the same door, the dissolution of self and the emergence of connection. And healing is not an escape, it's remembering our wholeness. I like that. Like healing is remembering. And then I also think of practicing remembering by going into ceremony, going into these non-ordinary states, having rituals, is a way to practice this remembering that we are whole already and that we do have an essence of love. When love becomes the guide, transformation follows. And I'll end on this quote that this came to me actually in a mushroom journey that I was on. I remembered this quote that I had heard from James Baldwin, that the world is held together, really it is held together by the love and the passion of a very few people. So that's all we need. Thank you.